Hi, good evening, everyone. In the last session, we have discussed about the servlet life cycle and the registration form using servlet. In this session, we are going to discuss about request dispatcher interface and forward and include methods of request dispatcher and send redirect method. What's the usage of this send redirect method? And in this session, we are going to design a web application using servlet that is login page. The last session we have created the registration page. In this session, we will create a login page, and then we will see how we'll use this request dispatcher methods and send redirect method. So for that, first we need to create a project. So it's Eclipse. So for creating the project, with the file, new. So now we are going to create a dynamic web project. It's a web application. So we have to select the dynamic web project. So the project name is login application. Login app. So login app. And SRC. And click on next. Here we need to select the generate web.xml deployment descriptor. So the project start from here. Select on finish. So now the project has created, that is a login app. A login app. Now you know the structure of this web application as a Java resource, web content. So inside the web content, you can see the web-ANF, and web-ANF have a lib folder. If you want to make this project as servlet supported project, then you have to add a jar file, that is a servlet API jar file. So the servlet API jar file is available here. So you can take from this project lib. Here we have a JDBC 14 and servlet API jars. These two jars are, if you want to use the JDBC, then we have to use JDBC 14. For servlets, we have to use servlet API jars. So these two jars we have to add for this login app. So just select the lib folder and then just paste it. Then the two jar files are added for this project. Now this project is servlet project. Now we can use all servlet classes. We can create the servlets. So the very first we need a, if it is a login form, I hope you know how it will look like. The login form here will have the login username and password, and then we'll have a login button. So for that, we need to create a HTML page. So later we'll see the JSP page. As of now, we'll create a HTML page. The HTML page will create our web content folder. Select a web content folder and right click, and going to create one HTML file. Create one HTML file. So the file name is index. File name is index. So index.html file will create. So here we need to give the title, what it has to display on web. So the title is login page. Is login page. Login page is the title, and inside the body, what we have to create? We need to create the form. So need a form tag. So there's a form tag. Have an action. The action name is, we can give it as validate, because we have to validate the whether this login and login name and password is correct or not. We have to validate it. So here I'll give validate. Validate is my action, and form method is post. This form have to create input items. Creating input items, first username, or you can give name or username. So user name. The input type is text. Text, and we have to give name for this input param. Have to give name, and name is, just I will give the name or uname name. So the value will be in this variable, name variable. And then password. But so here it's also a input type equal text, and then name is just pass. And then we need a button. The button is input. Now the type is submit. Type is submit. And then value. So what the value, I mean the name of the button is, just I give login. The name of the button is login. Now here it should have a break, otherwise all will come in same line. So need a break. So same break we required for password also. Our HTML. Now let's run this project and see how it will be the form. So for that, right click, run as, run on server. It will take a while. You can see username and then password. So after giving this username and password, just when click on this login, it has to validate. If it is correct, yeah, okay. If it is not correct, then it has to display message that is username or password is invalid. When you give correct valid username and password, then okay, it will go. Otherwise, it will this it has to display an error message. So the same URL will give in browser. Here we can give the username and password, and then when click on login, then has to be status 404 because there is no source for this validator, so it doesn't know which servlet has to execute it because still we didn't create the servlet. So now we have to create the servlet. So how we can create the servlet? In Java resource, have a SSC folder. So here, so right click on this SSC folder to create the servlet, and then class. Select the class. The class name is validate. Just we give the class name is validate. Validate is my class name. Then finish. And then finish. Show the package name, I forget it. So dot 3 is my package name. So within this package, we have a class that is validate class. So if you want to make this class as a servlet class, then what we have to do, this class has to extend HTTP servlet. Extends HTTP servlet. Hence HTTP servlet. Then this class has to a method that is do post method. So this do post method will have a objects. Those are request object and response object. HTTP servlet request object and HTTP servlet response object. Have two objects. Then what we have to do very first, we have to set the content type. So what will be the response type? How it will be the response? The response will be text or HTML type. So that here we have a response object. Here we have two objects, HTTP servlet request as the request object and HTTP servlet response, the response object. So how it has to be the response? The response has to be in the form of text, and the text format or HTML format. So response object dot set content type. Set content type. So how it has to be the content? The content is text by response content type. And then if you want to print something on the browser, then we require the print writer object. The print writer object, we can get the print writer object from the response object. So response dot get writer. Get writer is a method. This method will return the print writer object. This will return the print writer object. Writer writer out. Writer out. Okay. Now here there are two values, username and password. We need to get these values. If you want to get these values from the form, then we require the request object of get parameter method. So here, in order to get those values, I require the request object, HTTP request object. So HTTP request object is dot get parameter method. Get parameter. Get parameter. Now what's the name here? The variable name is name. So we have to give this name. So that value, but it should be in double. So now this value, now here whatever the value will give there, is the value. This value has to store in variable. So that is a string name. String name. And then we need to get the password also. So for getting password, request object dot get parameter. Get parameter. What's the name here? The name here is password name. Pass. So double quote. So this is also a string, so it has to store in a string. String. Now I will give my validation. The validation is if username is equivalent to some name and password is equivalent to some name, then only it will allow. Then only it will allow. Otherwise, it will display one error message. Otherwise, it has to display one error message. So for that, what I do, I give one validation. The validation is if if for the variables here, if name dot equals of name dot equals of Srini. Name has to be equal to Srini, and it has to satisfy one more condition, that is password dot equals of Virat. Password and username both are equal, then only it will print the message, that is the message is, so how we can print the message? If you want to print, we need out print writer object. What's the print writer object? Out dot println, out dot println, that is welcome uh, welcome Mr. The name, whatever the name here, the name will give it. Whatever the name will give it. So it will print. Suppose if I give the username is Srini, welcome Mr. Srini, it will display. Else, if it is not equal, whatever I am giving the name and password is not equivalent to Srini and Virat, then what it has to, then I will write the condition, else it has to display the other message. The other message is out dot println, out dot println of uh, you have entered incorrect username or password. The message. You have the message will display. Now this validate class has to call whenever we click on this login button. When click on login button, it has to call this validate class. If this validate class has to call, then when the action is validate, it means when the action is validate, it has to call this servlet. If validation is, if the action is validate, if this class has to call, then we have to configure it in web.xml in deployment descriptor. Where will be this deployment descriptor? Here in WebInf. Here we'll have a deployment descriptor, that is for the welcome file. First we'll have a index.html. So by default it will display, this welcome file, and then now we need to configure the servlet. So for configuring the servlet, what we have to do, the servlet tag, that is servlet. So in the servlet, what we have to give the servlet name and servlet class. So I give servlet name. The servlet name is, I give validate. Validate is the servlet name. Validate is the servlet name. And then servlet class. The servlet class. What's the servlet class? This is the servlet class. This is the name we have to copy and paste with fully qualified name. Fully qualified name is nothing but along with package. What is the package? The package is com.sri dot class name. So for this servlet name, whenever it calls this servlet name, for this servlet name, this is the class. This is the class for this servlet. And then we need to map with URL. We need to map with URL. So for mapping with URL, need to give the servlet mapping. So the servlet mapping is servlet mapping by servlet mapping. So here we need to give the servlet name and URL mapping. The servlet name, this is the servlet name. Servlet name, and then we need to give URL pattern. The URL pattern is slash. This is the URL pattern. Have to copy this one. Whenever the URL pattern is this one, whenever this action is this one, then what is the servlet name? The servlet name is validate. Servlet name is validate. When servlet name is validate, what is the class? The class is com.sri.validate. Okay. Now stop the server and we'll restart the server. Then we can see how it will work. So this is the yesterday. I'll remove this. Project is login app. So this project has to run the server. Okay, server is started. Now what's the URL? URL is so now I will give the username and password. So the first time I will give wrong, not Srini. So I give something, something give and password also. I will give the something. So then you have entered incorrect username or password. Has given you have entered incorrect username and password. But if you give correct, that is Srini and Virat. Srini is the password, username, password is Virat. Then when you click on login, welcome Mr. Srini. So the validation we have written in validate servlet. Here we have written the validation, that is if name dot equals of Srini, the name, whatever the name is Srini, and the password is equivalent to Virat, then it will print this one. Welcome Mr. Srini. The name, whatever we are passing, the name Srini. Else, if it is not equal to this one, then it will come to the else block and then it will print this message, that is you have entered incorrect username or password. Incorrect username or password. So generally, if it is error, it will display in red color text. So for red color text, we can change the font color as red. For changing font color as red, here you can change because our content type is HTML type. So it is the B is for making it as bold. I'm making it as bold. and then this font need to change as red. So for changing font, we have a font attribute, that is font font color red. Tag is closed, and then here also we need to close the font. Let us check whether it works or not. So for that, here we have changed in so I need to restart the server again. I don't know why my mouse is not working properly. Restarted the server. So now so I give something wrong. You can log in. Yes. You have entered incorrect username or password. If you give correct names, that is Srini and Virat, then it will print, that is welcome Mr. Srini. Welcome Mr. Srini. Now we will see the other concept in this servlet, that is request dispatcher. It is very important. Listen carefully. The request dispatcher is a interface. This request dispatcher interface has two methods. Those are forward and include method. It has two methods. Request dispatcher has two methods. Those are forward and include methods. What to do this request dispatcher? This request dispatcher is used to send objects request object from one resource to another resource. It means from one servlet to another servlet. Maybe that is a servlet or JSP or whatever. So it will send the resource for another resource, for sending the resource for another resource. So we can tell this request dispatcher is used to collaborate two different resources. That might be both may be a servlet or one servlet, one JSP, or two different resources. They both collaborate each other. How will get that request dispatcher object? That we get the request dispatcher object using the request object. The request object have a method that is get request dispatcher method. I will have a get request dispatcher method. Now what my requirement is, if the username and password is wrong, if the username and password is wrong, then again it has to display the login page. It has to display the error message as well as the login page. So if I give something wrong, then what it is displaying? Just it is displaying the error message, that is you have entered incorrect username or password. So along with this error message, I require to display the login page as well. Login page as well. So now we need to include that request and response to this one. So then again it will include the same page, the same request and response. So for that we require the request dispatcher. We require the request dispatcher. Now let us see how we use that request dispatcher. For getting the request dispatcher object, we have request object dot get request. Here we have a get request dispatcher method. Request dispatcher method. So here we need to pass which object has to dispatch. So you know what's the meaning of dispatch, right? Dispatch means sending. It will sending to somewhere. So here which object? The object is index. Index.html. Index.html. So it will return an object that is request dispatcher object. That is request. So the request dispatcher is the interface. Request dispatcher. So the object name, reference name is RT. Request dispatcher RT. Now this request dispatcher has two methods. This request dispatcher has two methods. One is forward method, other one is include method. It has two methods. Those are forward method and include method. What to do the forward method? The forward method forwards the request and response object, request and response object to another resource, to another servlet, to another servlet. Then include method, what to do the include method? The include method includes the current object and request and response. So now if I want to include this index.html in this response, in this response, then I need to use the method that is include method. That is include method. rd dot include. rd dot include is the method. Why my without my interfere? So it is somewhere it is selecting this problem. So include the method. So here I need to give the request and response. Request object and then response object. Now need to restart the server. So I stopped the server. Need to start the server again. Now it is started again. Now see, this time if we give incorrect along with this error message, it will display the form also, login form also. For username, giving something wrong. See, you have entered incorrect username or password. Along with this message, it has displayed this form also, index.html. So now, this time I will give correct. Srini and then Virat. Yeah, welcome, Mr. Srini. Then this request dispatcher has another method that is forward method. That is forward method. Why the forward method is in case if you want to forward this request and response to another servlet or JSP or whatever another resource, then we will use the forward method, request dispatcher forward method. So now we have used the include method. Why we have used the include method? So to include the object for current request and response. For this response, I included this object index.html. So if you want to forward the request and response, if you want to forward the request and response to another servlet, then we will use forward method. So for that, I will create one more servlet, that is welcome servlet. Welcome servlet. So now I remove this here. I remove this here. I create one more servlet to print that message. That is one more class I am going to create, that is new class. New class. The class is welcome. Welcome. So it's a normal class. If you want to make this class as a servlet, what you have to do, this class has to extend the HTTP servlet class, and then it has to override the toPost method. toPost method will have a servlet request, HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. Now, if you want to display something on browser, we need to set the content type. What is the content type? Is the HTML type or text type? What type? We need to set the content type. So the content will be in the response. So the response object, response.set content type. The content type is text by HTML. Content type is text by HTML. And then if you want to print something on browser, we need print writer object. How will you get the print writer object? If you want the print writer object, then using the response object, we can get the print writer object by calling the response object of getWriter method. Response dot getWriter is a method. This method is available in response object. So response dot getWriter, it will return the print writer object. Print writer out. So out is object reference I have given it. Out is the object reference I have given. So now here I can print that message. I can print that message. The message is out.println out.println of the message. So the message has to be within the double quotes. So as welcome web and welcome to web app development, Mr. Then the username has to display. As of now here there's no user. So how we can get the user? The user is available in this request, because this request and response will get from other. So here we need to create request.get parameter. Some parent name is it name. It will return thing, that is user name. So this username, sorry, the variable first letter must be user name. Here it will display the user name. Plus is the concatenation to concat something with the string username. Now here whatever we are giving the username here, this username will come to this class. It will come to here because we are sending the action, that is validate. When you're sending the action validate, when this is the action, it will call this servlet. When you call this servlet, the request by using the request object HTTP servlet request, we can bind the value of the name and password by using request.getParameter and request.getParameter of pass. We can get it. Now these values, these request and response values need to pass to another servlet, that is welcome servlet. So if I wanted to pass these values to another servlet, then I required the request dispatcher servlet uh, object. I need request dispatcher object. So now I need to forward this request and response to another servlet. So I will use request dispatcher of forward method, the forward method of request dispatcher. So first I need the request dispatcher object. For request dispatcher object, I can get from this request object, request dot get request dispatcher, get request dispatcher, request dispatcher. So here we need to give the resource name. What's the resource name? This is the resource. Welcome class name. This class name. And then it will return the object. The object is request dispatcher RT. Request dispatcher RT. Now we need to forward this request and response to this resource. So here I need to use this object RT dot is a request dispatcher object, and the method is forward. Now I need to forward this request and response to another resource, that is welcome servlet. So I will use the forward method. So here forward method, I need to pass the request and response object. This request and response object. Another resource, that is welcome. So now in web.xml, I need to map for this welcome servlet also. It's a servlet. So the servlet class, when we call some URL that is a welcome, then it has to move to the so and so servlet, the resource. So the resource name and URL mapping that we need to map here in web.xml. So I will use this same as a copy and paste. So here it is welcome. The class name is also welcome. Welcome. So servlet name I have given. Now servlet mapping. So servlet mapping need to give when it has to call. Servlet mapping. So the servlet name is welcome. Then when it is mapped with welcome. When URL pattern is welcome, then servlet name is welcome. When servlet name is welcome, what is the class? Servlet class. The servlet class is the welcome. Now need to stop the server. So server is stopped. Now I need to restart the server again. Stop the server. Starting. Yes, started. Server is started. Project. Now when I give username and password correct, then it has to display the message. Which message it has to display? When I give username and password is correct, then if name is Srini and password is Virat, then it will create the request dispatcher. It will run this code, request dispatcher, that is welcome servlet, welcome servlet. Then welcome, then this will forward request and response to this servlet. So it will move the cursor here, and here we have print writer out, then the username we are getting from the request object, and then here it will print welcome to web app development Mr. Here the username will be the Srini. Welcome to web app development Mr. Srini has to display. This is the expected output. Now let us check whether our program is correct or not. If this message is displayed, our program is correct. So Srini and Virat line. See here, welcome to web app development Mr. Srini. So this is the usage of request dispatcher. This is the use of forward and include methods of request dispatcher. It's important. So even it's important in interview also. Ask you interview questions. So when you give wrong, you have entered correct username, and then it will include index.html page again. If you give correct, then it will forward the request and response to the another servlet, that is welcome servlet, and then here it will display welcome to the web app development Mr. Srini. And then the servlet has another method, that is send redirect method. As a send redirect method. Usage of the send redirect method is the include and forward methods are server side. And the server side programming, will use whereas the send redirect method is used the client side, in case if you want to call any internal outside of the URL, internal or outside of the URL. Suppose if I want to call the Facebook from my application, yes, I can call by using the URL, by giving the URL. I can call Google, I can call Facebook, whatever I want to call, I can call from my web application. That will be on client side, that will work on client side, not in the server side. So as of now here it's work on server side, but it will work on client side. So the URL we have to give the URL that will redirect to the URL. That will redirect to the some URL. So for example, here we have a login. Once we log in and we have done all our operations, and then when you click on logout, then the login URL, we will provide the login URL, then we'll go to the starting point. Again, it will go to the starting point when you click on logout. So let us see how we'll use this send redirect method. The send redirect method is available in response object. This is regarding to response. The response object will have a method that is send redirect method. So now let us see what will happen when we call this send redirect method. So Just usage, I will show you the usage of this send redirect method. That is, if if my request and username and password is not correct, if it is not equivalent to Sri, it has to call the Facebook, my Facebook. It has to call my Facebook. So for that, yes, I will comment this code instead of displaying login page again. I want to display my Facebook. I want to display the Facebook app. So for that, just we'll use the response object of send redirect method. Response object send redirect is the method. Just we'll use this method. So here we need to pass the URL. We need to pass the URL. So the Facebook URL, we have to pass the Facebook URL. So that is http colon then www dot so if username and password is not equivalent to Virat and Srini, then it will come to the else block. In the else block, it will display the message that is font color, so you have entered incorrect username and password, and then it will redirect. Then it will redirect to the another URL. So another app, that is Facebook app. Redirect to the Facebook app. So now I need to restart the server because I changed the code. When we change the code, we need to restart the server. So then I need to, now let us check whether it will go to the Facebook or not. Starting, server is starting. Now this is the URL. If I give correct, yeah, it's okay. It will welcome to Mr. Srini for web app development. It will give. If I give wrong, so instead of Srini, I give wrong and something. Password is wrong. See. It's send redirect. It's redirected to the my Facebook. Redirected to the Facebook. That is http://www.facebook.com. Give wrong. If you give something wrong, Facebook and username and password, then when click on this login, I'm clicking on login, then immediately it will redirect. The send redirect method, what it do, the send redirect method will call, and then it will redirect to the Facebook. So the same will use in real-time app also. In case if I want to move to the login page, so here I have a logout option, right? When click on logout, then it will redirect. It will send redirect method. Internally, you'll have a send redirect method, and it will call the login page. It will call the login URL. whatever the URL, the login URL, it will call. So in case here, if I call www.google.com, so if I want to call the Google page, then if you change the code, you need to restart the server. It will call the Google page. If I give wrong, it will call Google page. So here's a wrong we have given. Wrong, it's not Srini and Virat. When you call, it will move to the Google. It will redirect it to the. So this is the login I will give. So this is the usage of send redirect method. Okay, I hope you understand. In tomorrow's session, we will see the another objects. Those are servlet config and servlet context and session. We will see these by in tomorrow's session. Until then, take care. Bye bye. Good night. I will update you the tomorrow session timing. Sure.